So I took a really long vacation. And here's what I learned about myself. So for those of you that followed along, you guys know a lot of my journey of how 2024 was kind of the year of burnout for me. End of the year with 56 weddings, kind of questioning everything about photography, questioning everything about my life. Do I enjoy this? Is this something I care about? And so I made a pact with myself that I was going to do no more than 30 weddings for 2025. Well, I closed out 2025 with maybe 27 weddings, which is such a dramatic difference. In that kind of shift, I had noticed that I was bored a lot of the year, but I was also like so exhausted to the point where I just felt like I couldn't really do anything. I think I was honestly still recovering from that 2024 year, that I just felt like I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. My brain couldn't think of anything creatively, and I felt like I wasn't getting inspired. So when that year ended, when 2025 came to close, I think my last wedding was near the end of November. I kind of took a hiatus. I took a little bit of a break. I took on a few, branding clients and things like that here and there, but for the most part, very little work. Pretty much from the months of December all the way up until February, which doesn't feel long, but 3 months of doing absolutely nothing is a long time, especially for someone like me who loves to be on the go. In this process and in this season, especially working with a therapist in my life and also just really getting a lot more introspective with the things that are important to me, the things that are just like important to life, I started to notice a few things that kind of hit home for me, things that I learned about myself. And the first one which is kind of on the obvious side, and I kind of know where it comes from and everything, but the first one is I just really hate slow seasons. And part of the reason of those 3 months of forcing myself to not pick anything up, forcing myself to sit in the boredom was intentional. Typically when I'm in the space where I am bored, my natural tendency is, okay, well then find something to do. Okay, find clients to have. What can I do for my business that can make me more money? What can I do to amp up the hospitality on my business? There's always something that needs to be done, right? There's always work that can be done to progress your business, to progress yourself. I am such a forward progress kind of person that I'm never thinking about like just celebrating and sitting and being. I remember the days when I used to be a college pastor, and something that I had always like preached on and talked about to my students, to people around me, was the idea of the fact that like we are not human doings, we're human beings. And it's so funny that like, of course, that would be the one thing that I talked a lot about, because that was the one thing I struggled a lot. The things that are most important to us and the things that we like to teach the most is because it impacted us the most, because we struggle with it. I just kind of came to the realization, which again, I think I knew this all along, but being able to put it into language, I think was super, super helpful for me. That like, I think I just found a lot of my identity and my self-worth in both what I did and how much I did of that thing. I know it is very common in the Filipino culture that, and this sounds so bad, but when you actually dig into the context of it, you realize how true it is, that love is very much conditional. Love my parents deeply. Like, I could not have asked for better parents, especially given the realization of how they grew up and how their parents were to them. Me and my dad never really had a strong relationship growing up, and then there was a moment in my life where my mom told me this whole story of how my dad grew up. And I just remember crying and like coming to my dad, and I remember telling him, this is probably like, I don't know, when I was 24, 25, coming to my dad and saying like, if I could be half the man that you are, given the situations that you have gone through, I would be completely satisfied. It gave me so much grace in seeing my dad the way that he is, based on how he grew up, and yet realizing that like, even without any really good role models of a father, the kind of dad that he was to me was incredible. I asked him to be the best man at my wedding. A lot of restoration there that took place. I say all that, again, it's not a slap in the face to my parents necessarily. And a lot of Asian cultures in general are very honor-based. And so it's like, what can you do to honor the family name well, or whatever that looks like? And so there was just a lot of areas in my life that I'd noticed where a lot of my love had to be earned. A lot of them being proud of me was something that had to be earned. A lot of my identity, a lot of my self-worth was very much based on how much I did and how much I can produce. Again, I think I knew all that. I've always been aware of that, and I've always tried to go against the grain of that. But I think the older you get, the more you realize like how deep it's ingrained in you, how deep these like truths that you know about yourself kind of entangle every other part of your life and like touch every aspect of your life. So yeah, so I forcefully attempted to not fill up my calendar. There's so many times where I could have easily just been like, you know what? I don't have anything going on this week. I'm gonna go find someone to shoot. I'm gonna go put together a styled shoot. I'm gonna go put a vision together and let's make something, let's do something creative. And instead, my wife was really good at kind of reminding me, hey, like, when was the last time you drew something? Because I used to love drawing. I used to draw like tattoos for friends, and I loved all the stippling art and all that kind of stuff. And I did that a lot. And she was like, when was the last time you drew? When was the last time you just wrote? You used to love writing, like used to journal and fill up. Guys, like I used to fill up a journal like at least once every like 6 months. This journal, I'm like, where is it? Where am I? I'm like here. Where? There you go. This is my last page. I'm here. I'm like half maybe. This has taken me almost a year and a half. And before, I used to actually journal thoughts, prayers, questions, ideas. I used to do all those things. Majority of this is, yeah, there are some like thoughts and processes and things like that in here, but then other things are like my to-do list and ideas on the next shoot. And it's like, it's still all work focused. And so I was like, okay, well then shoot, I need to do the things that I used to love. I need to go back to some of those things. During that 3 months period between December to February, we would just go to a coffee shop with nothing, no laptop, no phone, no nothing, with just a journal. She would bring books. She's been getting really big into like art history. And so she's been reading a lot more and that kind of stuff. For me, I've been wanting to draw a lot more. So I've been bringing literally like a little roll up of pens, different size pens and erasers and a drawing pad and just drawing. And I noticed the difference that made is that at the end of it all, I completely felt refreshed entering into the busy season. I think in the past, I've always entered into the busy season being like, dang, dude, I'm still exhausted. During the off season, I would just veg and be like, okay, great. I'm locking away from the rest of the world and I am just going to watch TV and I'm going to like do what I want, and nothing that's actually refreshing or rejuvenating to my soul, to my creativity, to my being. I was entering into a new season burned out already. And I just remember entering this March just feeling so full of life. I came into the year with like all these different ideas of like, not just like excitement and ready to shoot again and ready to be busy again, but like ideas of like, ooh, these are concepts that I want to put together, which I'm not usually someone who's good at concepts. But then I realized maybe I am, and I've just been always so burned out to realize that like I've never had space for that in my brain. And this was the first year that I was like, oh my gosh, I have concepts that I want to do. I need to write these down so I don't forget them. I remember showing up to the first 2 weddings of this year, doing my details very differently. Man, I was playing with lighting. I was giving myself space and time to like do things differently than I maybe have before. And it was just so refreshing. So yeah, the first thing that I really learned about myself was, yes, I really hate slow seasons. And so I really pushed myself to go against the grain on that and be okay with the boredom and realize that a lot of creativity actually comes from those spaces of boredom. When we actually shut our brains off to do something else, to do a different task, a lot of times what we don't realize is our brain is actually working on that same task, even though we've stepped away from it. So we think we've mentally checked out, but really what's happening is in the background, our brain is still working, which a lot of times why is you probably have those moments where, you know, you're thinking of something and you can't think of it and it's on the tip of your tongue, but you don't remember it. And then later on you're doing something else and out of nowhere, that thought comes back up because you don't realize your brain's actually been working the whole time you haven't been. So there's so much that like your brain is doing in the midst of the boredom. And so forcing myself to kind of be bored was, God, that was needed. That was so needed. The second thing I learned about myself was how much I needed my tribe. Now, being someone who is extroverted, being someone who loves to be around people, I've always known this about myself. But something that I did notice that was a little different was how a lot of times, especially as a wedding photographer, most of my friends that are in the industry, and majority of the times, the people that are in the industry are, 23-year-old single girls. And because they're the ones that are also wedding photographers, they're the ones that I'm editing with at a coffee shop or a co-working space. And we're talking about wedding industry stuff. And we're the ones editing on a Monday through Friday while all of the other rest of the world are, working in an office from 9 to 5. And so community was always something that I was craving. And unfortunately, especially in Charleston, it just felt like it was really difficult. It's been really difficult to find like guy friends around here. And so I just thought it meant like, okay, yeah, I'm extroverted. I need to be around people. The first 2 weeks of when work started hitting up and starting my season was like the first, it was like 2 weeks in March where I had 2 weddings back to back in Georgia. I had one wedding in Georgia, and then I just ended up staying in Georgia for the whole week so that I didn't have to drive back and forth, because the following weekend I had another wedding. So I was like, you know what, let's just stay here in Atlanta for the entirety of the week. And during that week, I made an effort that I wanted to connect with people. I just wanted to hang out with people. And it wasn't necessarily intentional that I was wanting to intentionally hang out with guy friends. It was more so I just wanted to hang out with friends, period. But the way it kind of just naturally happened was I got to hang out with a bunch of my guy friends in Georgia that I grew up with, and people that are also in the industry. I just remember that entire week hanging out with so many guy friends that not only were they guys, but they were kind of in a similar season of life as me. They were married. Some of them had kids. They were, they had their own families. A lot of them were in the creative field as well. And the conversations that I had with them, there was just a level of depth that I remember leaving those conversations, driving back to Charleston, and just feeling so tenacious, like hungry to be a better man, to be a better husband, to be a better son, to be a better worker. So much of that I realized I haven't felt this level of motivation in such a long time. And I think because of that, and I think part of that is because there was such a level of vulnerability and exchange of encouragement and wisdom, especially from people that are in the same season of life as you, especially being surrounded by more guys. I realized yes, you need your tribe. Yes, I'm an extrovert and I need people, but I don't just need people for people's sake. I need people for depth. I need people for intimacy. I need people that are going to sharpen me, people that are going to push me further than what I think I'm capable of going. And also just reorienting my mind to see things in a different light, to see things through a bigger picture. And I think a lot of times when you are a solopreneur and you're constantly working by yourself, or you're working with people that are in a completely different season of life as you, when you aren't in that same season of life as the people that you're working with, a lot of times your life can still feel super isolated. That week for me in Atlanta was not only refreshing, but it was so awakening for me. And lastly, I would say the biggest thing too was I needed a change of scenery. I needed to go explore. I needed to see something new. And again, these are 3 things that I think I've always known about myself. I know I like to be busy. I know I need to be around people. And I know that I love seeing new places and traveling and exploring and wandering. But again, I think there was a different level of awareness on each of those fronts that went a little deeper this time. I always knew that I loved traveling, that I loved seeing new places. I knew that I always needed to get away and see a new place. But I realized at the core of it wasn't just about seeing a new city. I felt like there was a lack of diversity here in Charleston and where I'm in. And my soul craved that. And I'm not just talking about diversity of race. I'm talking about diversity of culture, diversity in art, diversity in fashion, diversity in food, diversity in perspective and worldview. Just people that look differently from me and act differently from me and walk differently from me. And I just felt like everywhere I looked around the Charleston area, it just felt all the same to me. And I needed to get away. What I do? I booked a week-long trip to Seattle in the month of March. And this was after I spent a whole week in Atlanta for those 2 weddings that I did, came back, then ended up second shooting for a friend of mine in Florida, flew down there for 3 days, came back, then I was home for maybe 4 or 5 days, and then flew to Seattle. Not for work, literally just to get away, to explore, to wander again. And the only reason I booked it was because I saw round trip flights for $170, which, if you know anything about flying from the East Coast all the way to Seattle, on average, you're looking at like $400 to $500 round trip. And so when I found flights for $170, I was like, book. It was a really fun trip. It's not what I expected at all. One of the reasons too why I've always wanted to go to Seattle is because I haven't been since I was a kid, and I'm a big Seahawks fan. And of course, with us winning the Super Bowl this year, I just felt like the year to go. I'd always been a big Seahawks fan. Sean Alexander was kind of like my role model growing up as a kid. Just fell in love with the Seahawks, and since then just have been the biggest fan for them. And so I was like, yeah, this seems like the year to go. If you're going to go in the year that they won the Super Bowl, you know? I think when I went to Seattle, I was expecting to have the scenery kind of inspire me and see go to Mount Rainier and let that inspire me, and go to Olympic National Park and let that inspire me, and all these different cool spots. And ironically, the things that inspired me the most was, one, the people that I randomly got to meet. I ended up getting to do a shoot with a couple who I literally met because they were my servers at a restaurant. There was so much culture, there was so much diversity in race, in perspective, in viewpoints, in stories. Those were the things that ended up inspiring me. Those were the things that made me realize what's important to me isn't necessarily just visiting a new city. It's being surrounded by diversity. It's stepping out of your echo chamber of realizing that hey, there are people that look and act and think and believe very different things from you. So where this is going is Shelby and I made a decision. Now, some of you that have followed us on social media and see this on Instagram have probably already seen this because we made this decision a while ago, but these 3 months have kind of just solidified that, yeah, that's the decision we're going to go with. But we're moving back to Atlanta. And I'm really freaking excited about that. I think when people ask me why Atlanta, why are you going to go back to Atlanta? The short answer that I want to tell people is it's close to family, and it's where our people are and where our friends are. But if I'm being honest, I think the big part for me is the diversity piece. I'm ready to just be surrounded again by people of different cultures, people of different backgrounds, people of different upbringings, people that carry different stories. And I miss the diversity and creativity. The art scene is incredible in Atlanta, and I miss that. I think I have just started to feel bored in Charleston, and I love the city so much, and it's forever going to be a place that we are going to be vacationing to because I freaking love the beach, and it is going to be bittersweet. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy decision, but I think at the end of the day, something that we realized was when it comes to our tribe and when it comes to stepping out of this echo chamber of what's normal and what's familiar, Atlanta just kind of felt like that. It's a mixture of both. Our tribes are there, our people are there, and then on top of that, the culture. I always forget how much I miss the culture until I leave. So if you're in a place where you just feel completely and utterly uninspired and you don't know how to move forward past that, look for your tribe. Look for those people that push you. Look for those people that remind you how to be human first before being a creator, before being an entrepreneur, before anything else that you can produce. Look at those people in your life that remind you, hey, when was the last time you were a human? When was the last time you allowed yourself to play? When was the last time you allowed yourself to just do something for you? Not because there was a demand from other people, not because there was some level of productivity that you were chasing, but when was the last time you were just yourself? Find your tribe. For some of you, it might be you gotta go see something different. For some of y'all need to leave and step out of the world that you see on a daily basis. Step out of the people group that you are constantly surrounding yourself with, and see different people. See people of different perspectives and different backgrounds and different upbringings. Change that scenery. And I know for some change is difficult, for some change is easy. The thing that's hard for you is oftentimes the thing that's what you need to lean into the hardest. For me, I love change. Sometimes I love change so much that I get bored. And so for me, the challenge is, how do I sit in that boredom? For some of y'all, it might be that change is actually the hard part. Change is actually the part that feels uncomfortable and difficult. And that's the thing that you need to lean into, of stepping out of something that's uncomfortable, stepping out of something that's different from what you've always known. Surrounding yourself with people that look nothing like you, that think nothing like you, that walk, talk, and act nothing like you. Sometimes it's seeing a new place, a new city. For some of y'all, it honestly just might be being okay in the boredom. I think this looks different for every single person, and I'm still going through that journey myself and figuring that out. Being self-aware, I think, is the biggest key to our mental health. Taking time to slow down, listen to your body, listen to your thoughts, and see where you go from there. I think that's it. Yeah.